Hey there, how there, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter. I'm welcoming you to yet another Cutter Top 10 to do with the FIFA World Cup. And today we're going to be looking at the top 10 moments from match day 3 in the World Cup. Of course, when this video goes up, it will be June 28th. It will be the first day of the knockout stages. Of course, it will be Canada versus South Africa. Hopefully, Canada wins for South Africa. Of course, when I'm taping this game is not happening yet. Of course, wearing the kind of knockoff Canada shirt 2026. It's kind of cool and all that. So, you know, it's Canada. So I'm gonna tell you. Match day 3, as always, the third and final group stage matches, it was such a critical mess and all that. Now I will confess I did not watch the final few matches of the group stage because that started at 10 o'clock and I needed to be in bed so that I could get up early, do this top 10 list, and then do a couple of tapings and all that. Anyhow, we are going to be looking at the top 10 moments from match day 3, and it was very critical and all that. There is going to be a change. I actually had Spain Uruguay at number 10 on this list when I first did it, but I'm making a change now. So here is the change and all that. Number 10 is Turkey 3, USA 2. A lot of you will be probably guessing, why are you picking Turkey's win over the U.S. at so low on the list? Well, simply put, it was congratulations to Turkey for winning the match 3-2 in the final few minutes. However, there was one problem. The U.S., like some other teams involved, like Argentina and a few others, knew where they were going to go. They knew they were going to win the group. And basically, the Americans just played for their B team so that they could get World Cup experience and all that. So that's what the Americans did, and they got bit by Turkey. Like, the Americans knew they were going to play Bosnia and Herzegovina, but they lost to Turkey. Well, Turkey got the W. A lot of people said Turkey were going to be one of the biggest dark horses, but unfortunately, that's not true. Number 9, Morocco 4, Haiti 2. This was one heck of a game, to be sure, but Morocco being Haiti 4-2, you're thinking, well, how is that big? I mean, Haiti lost to Morocco. Everyone knew Morocco was going to win. Well, it was due to the fact that Haiti put up not one, but 2 goals on Morocco and actually shocked that country by putting them there. Remember, Morocco had that great defensive mark in the knockout stages, beating Spain and Portugal on penalty kicks and not giving up goal. But Haiti put 2 on them. I mean, it does tick me off that Canada only could put 1 past them in our matchup in 2022. But still, Morocco beat Haiti. Haiti got 2 goals, nothing to be ashamed of. They got 3 goals. That was pretty good. The new number 8 is Scotland 0, Brazil 3. You'll be thinking, well, why did you put a random Brazil Scotland result on the list? Well, it was due to the fact that Scotland got bit by their own impertinence. Actually, it did take 4 points to make the third place groups and all that at the end of the day. But anyhow, Morocco aside, Scotland could not beat Brazil. Well, everyone knew Brazil was going to beat Scotland, but not by 3 goals. I mean, Scotland just had a crappy first half. Their 3-0 loss kind of contributed to their knockout on goal differential. And as the great John Motson would say, the scene's so typically Scottish. So Scotland had a golden chance, now with the tournament expanded to 48 teams, to win, to do enough to get third place probably, and to win a trip to the round of 32 in the knockout. Didn't happen. Scotland blew that chance again. That's 13 major tournaments in a row that Scotland has botched. 9 World Cups and 4 Euros that they have not gotten to a knockout game. Wow. Number 7 is Switzerland 2, Canada 1. I know you'd be thinking, you put a Canada game so low on this list? Actually, I did. but there's a good reason for that. Canada's loss to Switzerland actually was more beneficial to Canada, to my home country, than you think. Canada knew they needed a win or a tie against Switzerland to win the group and host a game on July 2nd in Vancouver. They would have a round of 32 game at home and then go to the round of 16 in Vancouver. However, Canada gave up 2 quick goals to start the second half. They did make it 2-1 on a goal by Promise David when the Swiss goalie was out of his box, if you will. Canada tried a few chances to try to tie the game but failed. It is actually strange how Canada could do so well with a loss. But, that story comes up a little bit later. And number 6, Ecuador 2, Deutschland 1. This may not be as big as Switzerland Canada for a loss, but Germany had everything going. They even brought in all their players, even though they knew they were going to win the group. Germany didn't want to tank. They were up 1-0. Ecuador pulled off 2 quick goals and shocked Germany, saved their World Cup tournament. And, Deutschland really flew off the handle. I mean, after all, a few times, Germany didn't even make the knockout stages. They had choked. Fortunately, Germany didn't this time. Ecuador did their job. They beat Germany 2-1. So that was a big win for them. Number 5 is Congo 3, Uzbekistan 1. This was big because of DR Congo and winning a match in the first place against Uzbekistan. There was controversy because the famous Luamba fan, who actually was a statue of one of DR Congo's leaders and all that. A famous man could not get his visa for this game, so he couldn't do it. But someone else stood in for him. Nevertheless, DR Congo, formerly Zaire, 1974, they had that crappy performance. They couldn't score a goal against Scotland, Yugoslavia, or Brazil. Well, they lost 9-0 to Yugoslavia. But they did screw Scotland because Scotland could only score twice on Zaire, whereas Brazil scored 3 times, and Brazil beat them on goal differential. But, of course, Congo came back. They had that big tie with Portugal, and everyone was just shocked about how much they put up that tie, not realizing that tie actually worked out for them. They lost the next game, and then they would face Uzbekistan. They beat them 3-1. Uzbekistan could not get a win in their World Cup debut. Congo did their job. They won. And with 4 points, 1 win, 1 loss, 1 tie, they're in as a third place team. So that's big. And what's even bigger is they take on England in the round of 32 on Canada Day of all days. England did do business against Panama, beating them 2-0. So that was critical and all that. And of course, in Group L, Croatia beat Ghana, which was a tight one because Croatia and Ghana were fighting for second place and a trip to Toronto for the round 32. Don't worry, all will be explained. I will be doing a World Cup video about how it went and all that. Okay, number 4 is Cabo Verde, whatever you want to call it. 0, Saudi Arabia 0. This was an amazing tie for Cabo Verde. They had already tied Spain. They tied Uruguay. Yeah. They had a 2-2 tie with Uruguay, 0-0 against Spain. Everyone thought that, now what about Saudi Arabia? I mean, you put 2 ties against the 2 favorites in your group, and now what are you going to do about Saudi Arabia? Are you going to win or are you going to choke? But Cape Verde did not choke. They tied Saudi Arabia 0-0. And a lot of people thought Saudi Arabia was going to win this game. I mean, Saudi Arabia is not really known for their wins at the World Cup. They've won 4 games as a nation. They actually beat their kind of rivals Morocco in '94 along with Belgium, as they shocked Belgium with that 1-0 Aloen goal. They beat Argentina in 2022, and they beat Egypt in 2018. It was kind of weird that, yeah, those were the only four. But yeah, Cabo Verde won. And even though they had three ties, like another team we'll talk about on this list, they actually qualified because Uruguay and Saudi Arabia could only score 2 points each. So Cape Verde did its job. Uh, Number 3 is South Africa 1, Korea 0. So Group A, Beckon, the Mexican group, and you had South Africa, Korea. Well, of course, after Canada lost to Switzerland, everyone figured Korea was going to win or tie South Africa, get second place, and then it would be a Korea versus Canada matchup, and Los Angeles would be filled with Korean pride because of the Korean population of Los Angeles. So Canada was up against it. They kind of figured it would be Korea. Everyone thought it was Korea. I thought it was Korea. I told the people at the bar, well, I guess we get Korea. Because there was no way Mexico was going to lose the group. And they won the game anyway. Korea would now take on South Africa. And you look at the scoreline, it says 1-0 South Africa. This was one of the most crazy moments ever. And all that. South Africa upsets Korea. They take second place in the group, which means Canada will play South Africa today. Well, of course, when this video is out, I won't. It'll be taped when Canada still has to play South Africa, and Korea ended up faltering out of the top 8 themselves. So Korea had botched it. Well, you can kind of blame that 1-0 loss to Mexico with the goalie spilled the ball, and Korea, who was supposed to easily make the round of 32, did not make it, and all that. That was, I think, one of the biggest shocks. Number 2 is Egypt 1, Iran 1. This game on Friday night could have easily been a moot point and off the list because it would have been like, well, it doesn't matter. But it did at the end. Friday night, Egypt took on Iran. The only problem is FIFA set up a Pride Night match in Seattle between these two nations. One problem though, Egypt and Iran both have troubles with, homosexuality and all that. Although it was set in stone that was going to be the match in Seattle, they just didn't know who were going to be playing in that one when they set it up. I think it didn't really go over so well because, Egypt and Iran punished that kind of stuff. Egypt was up 1-0, and then Iran tied it at 1. Iran, in the 90th minute, like at stoppage time, had a chance to win the game, and they thought they had beaten Egypt, thrown a wrench into everyone's plans, and got themselves second place and safe passage to the round of 32. Not so fast. VAR confirmed that Iran's guy was offside. The only problem was it was by this. It was by a freaking foot. Yeah, like this side. This is what he was offside by. That was pathetic and all that. They called the goal back because his toes were just offside. Are you crazy? Well, the game ended up 1-1 and all that. However, there's a reason why that's number 2. Number 1, and it was actually strange enough, the last group stage match was the number 1 moment in this one. Algeria 3, Austria 1. No, sorry. Algeria 3, Austria 3. Yes, the last game of the group stage was there for the taking. After everything that happened, Argentina's game against Jordan was unprecedented, and it was a moot point. However, Algeria, Austria was not a moot point. Algeria faced off against Austria. Both teams needed a tie to move on. There were a lot of people who said that there would have been some argy-bargy and some, something weird going on to deny Iran the chance to be in the World Cup, to stay in the World Cup. So Iran were waiting. They needed a result. They needed either Algeria or Austria to win the game so that they can move on. Algeria was actually down 1-0 until a famous shot actually struck the corner flag. It would look like it was going out, but it hit the corner flag, stayed in play, and Algeria scored a top shelf goal to tie it at 1. Now, of course, that would have been one massive talking point is the corner flag may have helped Algeria out. However, that's not the story. In the second minute of stoppage time, Austria were in trouble. Algeria had just made it 3-2. So Algeria were going to win. They would have played Spain, and then of course that meant that Iran would have been pushed to play Switzerland in Vancouver. Because Switzerland were still waiting for their opponent in the round of 32. And whoever took a second in Group J would be taking on those pesky Spaniards, the pre-tournament favorite Spaniards. However, Austria in the 5th minute of stoppage time. Yeah, there were 4 minutes at it, but because a goal had been scored in substitutions, they had to add on time. And thanks to that, Austria scored a massive goal, tied the game at 3, and kept their World Cup hopes alive and screwed over Iran in the process. It wasn't like they were both going for the win, like a 3-3 score line and all that. Algeria were trying to defend Austria to the death. So that's what ended up happening. And Canada wins something. So that meant Switzerland plays Algeria in Vancouver, and Spain has to face off against Austria. Now, it's strange as it sounds, but I think Canada won by losing because I don't think Canada would have been Algeria, knowing my dumb luck. I think Canada would have easily lost to Algeria. Now you got this game against South Africa, luck of the draw. Maybe it was the FIFA gods smiling down on all 3 co-hosts, Mexico, US, and Canada, getting decent matchups. So, of course, doing my complete history of the World Cup and doing all the notations and all that. So this is how the round of 32 is going to go. Of course, some of you will probably watch this video and not the FIFA World Cup 2026 in review, group stage in review thing. I don't blame you. But anyway, so here are the matchups. Canada, South Africa will play today, June 28th in Los Angeles. Tomorrow, the 29th, it's Brazil, Japan. I expect Brazil to win. Germany, Paraguay, which I think will be an easy German win. And then Holland, Morocco. That's a tough one. It could be on the side. Morocco did surprise everyone in 2022. I think that game's going to be too close to call. And of course, that game, if Canada does beat South Africa, then we play the winner of Holland, Morocco. So practically, I mean, for me, it's probably going to be a no-win situation around 16. Tuesday the 30th, it's Ivory Coast, Norway. That's 50-50, actually. France, Sweden. I think France will win. Sweden will not be as easy as it looks. And Mexico will face Ecuador. Watch out. Ecuador might be tough for Mexico. Who knows? Canada Day, Wednesday the 1st. It's England versus DR Congo. Can't discount Congo. Belgium, Senegal. I think they might be close. Belgium does have a tendency to be overrated. And US, Bosnia. I think the US knows everything. But Bosnia did prove they made the World Cup after all. And Thursday the 2nd, Spain plays Austria. We'll see how that goes. Portugal faces Croatia in Toronto, which is going to be a clusterfuck because you got Toronto having a lot of Portuguese and Croatian expats in that city. So that's going to be one hell of a matchup. I don't know. I hope Toronto behaves itself. And then you got Switzerland, Algeria in Vancouver. Canada, I think, dodged a bullet. I hope I'm correct. Australia, Egypt on Friday the 2nd. On Friday the 3rd, sorry. So yeah, Australia, Egypt. That might be 50-50. Egypt is not as hard as it looks. Argentina against the Rocky of the group, Cabo Verde, and Colombia faces Ghana. I think it might be close. I think Ghana, you can't discount Ghana. I told everyone around me, I said, don't discount Ghana. And they tied England 0-0, so that's what I think. So that's all I've got for this edition of Cutter Top 10 for the FIFA World Cup and all that. So hopefully you enjoy everything. and we'll talk more as time goes by. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.